إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم شريف. Salams to the Imam of our time and a heartfelt condolence to Bibi Fatima's household for these days of Azhar. May Allah accept our hajat. May Allah accept all the efforts everybody has made. The team behind here is another level. I just stand in front of the camera. I don't do anything. This is my lovely girls and young boys. So please pray for each other. Pray for the Palestinians, the Gaza people. Everybody is in need of dua. So please, giving condolences to the household of Bibi Fatima Salamullah Alaiha, especially the Imam of our time, who's the Waris-e Azhar. Pray for him, his reappearance. Our President Mahmoud Padani Bhai is in hospital. A surgery at the moment is happening. There's a procedure. Please pray for him and his family. Azhar Khan Umul Baneen, Bustan Zahra. And with that, we start our program. Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجه الشريف. سورة ياسين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون. بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنؤتم من لو يشاء الله أتمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يقسمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهدرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم سورة المباركة الفاتحة
صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي برسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعوذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيت به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله اللهم صل فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب عوزي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتك قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية أخي وابن عم رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لواي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ وقال السلام عليك يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومع بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وهفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وفازت شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وصعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Jazakallah for this beautiful recitation of Surah Yasin. May Allah accept and Hadith Kisa. We're now going to carry on with our programs with Source Salam, Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
Khushnudi Qaimi Ali Muhammad. Bulantarin salawat.
اللهم صل على
Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad wa Jil Farajum Sharif.
बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद बुलंदतर सलावत। सल्ली अला मोहम्मद वाल मोहम्मद व अज्जल फरजहम। नामे अब्बास वसीला है हर दुआ के लिए। नामे अब्बास वसीला है हर दुआ के लिए। मंशए ज़हरा इरादा है अली हुक्म जली। सानिए जाफर तैयार है गैरत का वली। खुद चुना खालिक अकबर ने है वफा के लिए। नामे अब्बास वसीला है हर दुआ। कोई माने या ना माने है ये ईमान मेरा। नामे अब्बास तो बख्शिश का है सामान मेरा। चश्मे फैज़ है ये दर हर एक अता के लिए। चश्मे फैज़ है ये दर हर एक अता के लिए। नामे अब्बास वसीला है हर दुआ के लिए। नामे अब्बास वसीला है हर दुआ। दीद करती हूँ अलम पर तो कलम रुकता है। याद आ जाते हैं गाजी मुझे यूं लगता है। अभी रोता है ये ज़ैनब तेरी रिदा के लिए। अभी रोता है ये ज़ैनब तेरी रिदा के लिए। नामे अब्बास वसीला है हर दुआ के लिए। अल्लाह सल्ले अला। मौला अली असगर अलैहिस्सलाम की शान पे बुलंदतर सलावत। सोच के कुछ बंद। आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लो मेरे असग़र आजा। आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लो मेरे असग़र आजा। लोरी अरमानों से भरपूर सुना दो मेरे असग़र आजा। आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लो मेरे असग़र आजा। तीर के आगे तुझे लाल सिखा दो मेरे असग़र आजा, आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा। पहले अल्लाह का मैं शुक्र बजा लाऊंगी, देख कर खून तेरा लाल मैं मर जाऊंगी। मैं तुझे मौत की हिचकी से बचा लूं मेरे असग़र आजा, आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा। तुझको एक बार दफ़न बाबा तेरे कर देंगे, फिर तुझे नेज़े सक़ीफ़ा के वहाँ ढूंढेंगे। दश्त की गर्म हवाओं से बचा लूं मेरे असग़र आजा, आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा। तेरी मासूम सकीना को पिला कर पानी, कल तेरी प्यास बुझाएगा अली का सानी। मैं तुझे देख के प्यास अपनी बुझा लूं मेरे असग़र आजा, आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा। लाश असग़र की जो देखी तो उठी एक बुका, हाय ये शाम गरीबां को सकीना ने कहा, होके पाबंद तुझे पानी पिला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा, आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा। है तो आखिर को वो माँ कहता है ज़ाहिर का यकीन, ढूंढती होगी उसे रो रो के राहों में कहीं, कहती होगी कि तेरे नाज़ उठा लूं मेरे असग़र आजा, आज की रात तुझे गोदी में सुला लूं मेरे असग़र आजा। लोरी अरमानों से भरपूर सुना लो मेरे असग़र आजा अल्लाहुम्मा
Forward because there's quite a few people coming in and there's we all move forward then they can sit at the back. Thank you.
Ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad. Please come forward because there is no walking space there. There's plenty of room but you need to swing forward. Thank you so much. Khushnudi qaim ali Muhammad buland tareen salawat. Huma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Jazakallah Sadaf, inshallah, Kabul Pursa. El Samad Sadua, we are now inviting our young Fatima to carry on with the Source Salam. May Allah accept our Hajat. May Allah grant us all that we are looking for, inshallah, on a day like this. The Azhar days are here and we must remember the Imam of our time. Imam, we need him now. We know we need him. Everybody needs him. We need him the most. So if we can just keep remembering Imam, asking for the Zuhur, giving Pursa to Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha, Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Barta Jule Zuhur Imam Zamana Bawaze Buland Salawat. Nade Ali Madhar al-Lajab تجد هون لك في النوائب كلها من وغم سيجري بعلي عليه السلام نار هادري برای خوشنود شاه نجف بلندتر صلوات. मौला हुसैन की शान में एक और दुरूद पढ़ लीजिए मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद अल्लाह हुसैन बाँट रही है निजात ले जाओ हुसैन बाँट रही है निजात ले जाओ कुछ के वज़े कुछ के वज़े कायनात ले जाओ हुसैन बाँट रहे हैं निजात ले जाओ ये करबला है ये मौजिज़े नुमा की बस्ती है ये करबला है ये मौजिज़े नुमा की बस्ती है कफन लपेटो हयात ले जाओ हुसैन बाँट रहे हैं और कहेंगे मातमी हलकों से लोग महशर में, कहेंगे मातमी हलकों से लोग महशर में कि हमें हुसैन की जन्नत में साथ ले जाओ। हुसैन बांट रहे हैं निजात ले जाओ। और ये मौजो उठो अरीज़े को साथ ले जाओ। ए मौजो उठो अरीज़े को साथ ले जाओ। इमाम असर तलक मेरी बात ले जाओ। हुसैन बांट रहे हैं निजात ले जाओ। बरता जिले ज़ोहर इमाम ज़माना बावाज़े बुलंद सलावत। माँ की दुलारे अली असग़र, आँखों के तारे अली असग़र, आग लगी है ख़ैमों में, है आग लगी है ख़ैमों में। ऐ मेरे प्यारे अली असग़र, माँ कहती थी जलते हुए चूल्हे से लिपट कर, हाय हाय अली असग़र। माँ कहती थी जलते हुए झूले से लिपट कर, हाय हाय अली असग़र। ज़ालिम ने तुझे क़ब्र से इस तरह निकाला, सीने पे लगा जिस घड़ी बेटा तेरा नेज़ा, लाशे को तेरे देख के बोला सर अकबर, हाय हाय अली असग़र। माँ कहती थी जलते हुए चूल्हे से लिपट कर, हाय हाय अली असग़र। और कातिल तेरा मिल जाए तो खुद पूछ लो उससे, क्या जुर्म था 6 माह के बच्चे का बता दे, कि उसने तो
कर हाय हाय अली असगर माँ कहती थी जलते हुए झूले से लिपट कर हाय हाय अली असगर अरे तुम मर गए बात वो अब तक नहीं मानी कि जिद करती है भाई को पिलाऊंगी मैं पानी खूजाली मक़तल में खड़ी है तेरी ख्वाहिश हाय हाय अली असग़र माँ कहती थी जलते हुए झूले से लिपट कर हाय हाय अली असग़र और सरसरीने से गिरा देते हो अपना कि गोदी में मेरे आना है शायद तुम्हें बेटा लेकिन है बदे हाथ उठा सकती नहीं से हाय हाय अली असग़र हाय हाय अली असग़र था ये बानों का बयान किसको दूँ अब लोरियाँ ढूंढती फिरती है मारे है मेरा असग़र कहाँ था ये बानों का बयान किसको दूँ अब लोरियाँ ढूंढती फिरती है मारे है मेरा असग़र कहाँ तेरा झूला जल गया ऐ मेरे तृष्णा ढूंढती फिरती है मारे है मेरा असग़र कहाँ हाय वो नाजुक गला 3 दिन से खुश्क था बढ़ के मौजे तेरी ने वो किस कदर ज़ख्मी किया तर हुए खून से ज़बान ले सके ना हिचकियाँ कि ढूंढती फिरती है मारे है मेरा असग़र कहाँ और खून भरा कुर्ता तेरा हाय वो भी छिन गया अब जीऊँ किसके सहारे पास मेरे क्या रहा जिंदगी हैराएगा हर खाली झूला देख के ऐ मेरे नूरे नज़र आँख फरियादी है मेरी और रोता है जिगर। सो गए हो तुम कहाँ चैन पाए कैसे माँ ढूंढती फिरती है मादर है मेरा सिर कहाँ ढूंढती फिरती है मादर है मेरा सिर कहाँ।
पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
Fatima, Jazakallah, inshallah, Kabul. Can you request a Surah Fatiha for Shuhada Karbala, Ashiran Sham, Surah Al-Mubarakatul Fatiha. खुशनुदी क़ाम आले मोहम्मद बुलंद तरीन सलवात। खुशनुदी फातिमा तो ज़हरा सलामुल्लाह अलैहा। Loudest of your loudest salawat, reach Baqiya Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. We now like to invite our esteemed Zakira Zahra Kanani. She's made an effort all the way from wherever she's come. So Jazakallah for accepting our invite, and thank you so much. It's always an early start for you. May Allah accept your efforts, and please remember all of us in your du'as. Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Bar Habib Khuda Khatam al-Anbiya Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Ali wa aulad Ali par bawa se buland salawat. Shahanshah Kainat, Imam-e Zamana, loudest of your salawat.
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. بأبي أنت وأمي ونفسي ومالي لك الفداء يا ابن الزهراء. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب يا مظلوم بكربلاء. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. اللهم صل على قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا وسلطان مبين إلى فرعون وهامان وقارون فقالوا ساحر كذاب فلما جاءهم بالحق من عندنا قالوا اقتلوا أبناء الذين معه واستحيوا نساءهم وما كيد الكافرين إلا في ضلال. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد. My respected elders, mothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Since the date of October the 7th, for many of us there has only been one subject of discussion: the atrocities and the tragedies that are befalling upon the people of Gaza, upon the people of Palestine. Each and every single one of us has been stunned and shocked at the faith and the tawakkul displayed by these individuals who have lost absolutely everything. They have lost their wealth, their families, their homes, their livelihood. Yet whenever a calamity befalls them, they still raise their hands to the heavens and they say, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is the one who is sufficient for us. One of the most horrific statistics that we have from this conflict is that over 15,000 innocent children have been killed. 15,000. Remember this number. In 1989, over 196 countries, including the state of Israel, and ironically, the United States is not a part of this convention, but 196 states came forward and they ratified and they signed the UN Convention for the Rights of the Child. A convention which has to be upheld by every single country that agrees to be bound by it. And if they don't, they are in breach of international law. And what does this convention tell us about the rights of the child? It tells us about the first right of the child, which is the right to life. It talks about the right of the child to be safe from violence. It talks about the right of the child to have an education. And it talks about the right of a child to just relax and play. 196 countries have signed up to this convention. Yet where is the international community when these rights of the children of Gaza are being breached? You know, yesterday on social media, I saw a picture of a young baby, no more than 6 or 7 months old, who had been in one of these bomb blast attacks. Shrapnel was embedded into his skin. Blood was coming out of every part of his body. And this child was so scared to the point that he could not even cry. He was just shaking and quivering. And my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces as I thought, Ya Aba Abdullah, this is the Asghar of today. This is the Asghar of today. Remember what I've said about this statistic of 15,000 children. We'll come back to this in a second. But the verses that I have chosen to speak about today are verses 23 to 25 of Surah Ghafir of the Holy Quran, Surah number 40 of the Holy Quran. And it's one of the places in the Holy Quran that I hope and pray gives us some comfort in terms of what is happening in the world today. Although the conflict in Gaza does not directly affect you and I, we are sitting here safe in London in our homes. But what is happening in that part of the world weighs very heavily on our hearts. It weighs very heavily on our consciences. We are burdened by what is happening. For as Rasulullah says, نَحْنُ أُمَّةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. We are all one ummah. That when there is pain in one part of the ummah, the entire ummah has to suffer. Whatever is happening in Gaza weighs heavily on our hearts. But I hope that these verses that I present to you today will give you some comfort in the ultimate plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And allow you and I to also understand why what is happening in the way that it is happening. For you will see as we go through these verses how history continuously repeats itself. The strategies and the tactics that were used by the oppressors of the past are the same strategies and tactics that are used by the oppressors of today. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points this out and exposes these tactics. For as the Quran says in the final ayah of Surah Al-Yusuf, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, that these stories that Allah puts in the Quran are not just stories for you and I to listen to and say that was a nice event, good triumphed over evil. Quran says no. لَعِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, that these are stories of morality, lessons for the people of intellect. Allah is saying to you and I, observe the world around you. See what is happening. And learn and understand the signs of what has happened in the past. And what happened to those oppressors of the past will happen to the oppressors of the future. This is the message of the timeless message of the Quran. The verses that I've chosen to share with you, 23 to 25 of Surah Al-Ghafir, are verses that are a section of the story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. And many of you that were here last year will remember that we talked about Nabi Musa and his birth and the killing of the children when Pharaoh realized that a Messiah would arise from the children of Israel to kill him and overthrow him. This part of the story is a story that is a different section of the life of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a very unique perspective on this. So he starts these verses by saying, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. Allah says that I sent Musa to Fir'aun with bi'ayatina, with my signs. As we know, Musa had many miracles that he presented before Fir'aun. But Allah also makes clear that Musa went not only with signs and miracles, وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. Musa alayhi salam approached Fir'aun with the direct authority and responsibility of Allah Azza wa Jal. And just to put this into perspective, I need you to understand the power and the status of this individual that we know as Fir'aun. Only then will you be able to understand what this verse means, that Allah sent Musa with authority to Fir'aun. In his time, Fir'aun was considered to be the superpower. And his empire was considered to be the mightiest empire of the world. Egypt had formed political alliances with the other great civilizations of the past, to the point that the royal families and the princes of these other civilizations would come and they would study in Egypt. And they would take back the tactics that Pharaoh had taught them back to their civilizations. The military of Pharaoh was unrivaled. Pharaoh had military disposal at his command. Fir'aun was the superpower of the world, economically, culturally, socially. And historians accept that the Pharaoh that challenged Nabi Musa alayhi salam was the Pharaoh known in history as Ramesses II. And history tells us that Ramesses II was the Pharaoh that expanded the borders of Egypt from Egypt to Iraq, Libya, Yemen, Syria. The Egyptian empire spread far and wide. And as we know, one of the hallmarks of the Egyptians, many of you will have visited the land of Egypt. Many of you will have visited and seen and been interested in the history of the land of Egypt. One of the hallmarks of the Egyptians was to build these monuments, yes? The temple of Luxor, the temple of Karnak, the pyramids, all of these great monumental structures. Why? Not only were these part of their cultural tradition, but one of the reasons that Fir'aun wanted these structures to be erected was to simply display his might and his power to the world. That any individual that entered Egypt or entered the borders of Egypt would see the advanced technology and the wealth of Fir'aun, and they would pass by and they would think, it is not within us to challenge Fir'aun. We do not have the power or the stability or the finance to challenge or overthrow Fir'aun. This was a display of Fir'aun's power. And Allah refers to Fir'aun in the Quran not only as Fir'aun, but He refers to Fir'aun and his civilization in the Quran in two particular places with a very specific phrase. In Surah Sad and in Surah Al-Fajr, Allah refers to Fir'aun as Dhil Awtad. And Mufassirin come forward, and again, I'm just giving you this as background to explain to you the power and the status of Pharaoh. Allah uses very specific imagery, very specific pictures to describe to us the status of Fir'aun. Dhil Awtad. One interpretation of Dhil Awtad is the people of the stake. You know how Jesus was crucified on the cross? That cross was a stake. And one of the reasons that Fir'aun and his people were given this title, Dhil Awtad, was that whenever anybody challenged their authority, Fir'aun would tie them to the stake and would execute them. And for those of you that were here last year will remember that when his own wife Asiya bint Mazahim challenged him and rebelled against him, he also tied her to the stake and had nails punched into her arms and into her legs. This was one of the ways in which Fir'aun would punish the people that rose up against him. And one reason why the Mufassirin say he was called Dhil Awtad, the people of the stake. The other reason that Mufassirin come forward and say that he was known as Dhil Awtad, Awtad also means pegs. For those of you that have been camping, you will know that when you put your tent into the ground, you need to secure it with a peg, right? In order to stop it from flying away when the wind comes. Allah is using this imagery to say that Fir'aun's military, wherever it went in the empire of Egypt, would set up base and would set up these tents and would set up these camps. That across the land of Egypt, these tents of Fir'aun would be established, showing his military might and his military power. Allah is using very specific imagery, and I'm not able to convey and get across to you what Allah is trying to say. But Allah is trying to say that this army of Fir'aun was the most magnificent in the world at that point in time. Fir'aun had a massive army that he could mobilize at any time against anybody who challenged him. And the verses of the Quran actually suggest that Fir'aun was using his military to control his population. You know, these oppressors, when they want to stay in power, they have to subdue a certain section of society in order to stay in power. And Fir'aun was no different. The Quran tells us this in Surah Al-Qasas, verse number 4. It says, Inna Fir'auna ala fil ard. That Fir'aun exalted and elevated himself in the earth. وَجَعَلَ أَحْلَهَا شِيَعًا يَسْتَضْعِفُ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ. And he separated his people into different classes. He gave himself and his family the position of the Egyptian royal elite. And he gave the slaves of Israel the position of subhuman individuals. He created social class and social status between the people in order to establish himself in power. He segregated society in order to elevate himself and to weaken a large section of society. This was the strategy, the first strategy of Fir'aun, to keep certain people in his land as slaves, to treat them as subhuman. Even though there were many of them in number, they had nothing. They had nothing. And Fir'aun continued this tactic of separating Banu Israel from the Egyptian royal elite for many, many years, until Allah sent Musa alayhi salam. Musa with Sultanim Mubin. Fir'aun had a massive army that stretched across his empire. Musa alayhi salam came alone to Fir'aun with only Harun. As if Allah is saying that, Fir'aun, your armies are nothing in the eyes of Musa. To just understand the magnitude of the power that Fir'aun wielded at that time. And Musa's mission was what? His mission was not only to smash the government of Fir'aun, but to put an end to the political corruption, the economic corruption that existed within the government of Pharaoh. His mission was to establish a society of justice that was equal for its citizens, that was politically, economically, socially stable for all of the people that lived within that state. And when the verse continues, Allah tells us who He sent Musa to. إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَقَارُونَ. He sent Musa alayhi salam to these three individuals, but not just to those individuals. And the ulama come forward and say that these individuals represented a separate section of society. Fir'aun represented the tyrannical government and the oppression and the corruption. Haman was the vizier of Fir'aun, an individual who exerted such a great amount of influence over Pharaoh that in the Quran, when Allah talks about the army of Fir'aun, He refers to it as the army of Fir'aun and Haman. That's how influential this Haman was, that he's on a par with Fir'aun. He's, for want of another word, the spin doctor, the political strategist, the military strategist of Fir'aun. And the last individual is who? Qarun. Who's Qarun? Qarun is from Bani Israel. Some say he's a cousin of Musa alayhi salam. Qarun was a man of immense wealth. How did he become wealthy? Because Fir'aun put him as a spy amongst Bani Israel. And the job of Qarun was to feed intelligence about Banu Israel back to Fir'aun. And in return for that intelligence and that information that he gave to Pharaoh, Pharaoh gave him an abundance of wealth and riches. Qarun was of the Bani Israel. Filthy rich. Absolutely filthy rich. but he was a sellout to his own people. So Allah is saying, then Musa, I've sent you to the representative government. I've sent you as an authority to the political strategist. And I've sent you as a message to the hypocrite of the time as well. These are the three sections of society that Musa was called upon to challenge. And these three individuals, when Nabi Musa alayhi salam launched his challenge against Fir'aun, these three individuals were the first three to put their heads together and to come up with a strategy to defeat Musa. And what did they do? Remember, we have just said that this empire of Fir'aun is the mightiest empire in the world. So in theory, if Fir'aun wanted to kill all of Banu Israel, he could. But why didn't he? Why didn't he? Why did he subjugate them as slaves? Because these slaves of Banu Israel were used to build the cities and the monuments of Pharaoh. Pharaoh needed them. They were an inconvenient because Pharaoh himself was too proud to do that kind of manual labor. He needed these slaves in order to build his kingdoms, to build his cities. But they were an inconvenience to him. He disliked their presence in his empire, but he needed them. And you know, history tells us that these Bani Israel, these slaves of Egypt, their job would simply be to go into the mud pits day after day and to crunch the mud with straw in order to build bricks that would then be used to build the cities and the monuments of Pharaoh. These Banu Israel, although they lived in the open air of Egypt, they were limited in their movement. They were only allowed to go from their house to their mud pits. They didn't have any freedom within Egypt. People like Qarun were in the middle of them, so they didn't even know who they could trust. In other words, in the language of today, we could say that these individuals lived in an open air prison. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds familiar. The slaves of Egypt lived in that very constrained situation that Fir'aun had imposed upon them. So Fir'aun could not kill them because he needed them. So what was the next strategy that Haman told Fir'aun to do? If you can't kill them, then vilify these people. Paint them as people that are bad for Egyptian society. This Musa that represents them, what is he? فَقَالُوا سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ. He is a magician, he is a liar. And the people that he represents, these slaves of Egypt, they are all liars. They are all magicians. And you people of Egypt, if you're not careful, these slaves will take away this land of Egypt from you. Do you see the clever strategy of Fir'aun? He first subjugates and segregates this section of society, but he needs them. And then he vilifies them and paints them as the enemy, whilst making himself out to be the victim. That I'm the one controlling them. If I don't control them, they're going to take Egypt away from us because they're all mad liars. You see how clever he was. This media propaganda that we see in today's day and age is nothing new. Allah is telling us about this in the Quran. This is a classic tactic of the oppressor of the Zalimeen. Allah is telling us history is repeating itself. Watch the signs that are happening around you. And then Allah gives us a very interesting verse in Surah Al-Qasas, verse number 6. He tells us something that only Allah could know. And he tells us that Haman and Fir'aun were extremely fearful of something. And the Mufassirin say that only Allah can know this. Fir'aun is the highest superpower in the earth. To the external, he has everything. He has wealth, he has wives, he has concubines, he has children, he has military might. What can an individual like that be scared of? But Mufassirin say that Fir'aun was petrified and terrified at night when he went to sleep because he was scared that one day these slaves would revolt against him. The highest superpower on earth was petrified that the people that he had subjugated would one day rise against him. And this is something, bear in mind, what Allah is telling us in Surah Al-Qasas, this is only something that Allah can tell you. Only Allah knows the state of a human being. Only Allah knows what the state of Fir'aun was at that point in time. Fir'aun is terrified. He is terrified that one day this power will be taken away from him. So he consults again with Haman and Qarun. What's the next strategy? I've segregated them. I've vilified them. What do I now do? What did I say at the beginning? 15,000 children killed in Gaza. The next strategy of Fir'aun, اقتلوا أبناء الذين معه. Kill the children of those with Musa. See how history repeats itself? Kill the children of those with Musa. Break the spirit of these slaves by killing their children. If you break their spirit, they will no longer resist Fir'aun. And Fir'aun will be given back his power. Not only that, the verse continues, وَاسْتَحْيُوا نِسَاءَهُمْ. Kill their children, but keep their women alive. Interesting strategy. Keep their women alive so they keep on having children. So that if again in the future they decide that they want to rise and rebel, again we can kill their children. Do you see how these tactics repeat themselves? Keep enough women alive so that if they want to rise again in the future, their future children will be killed. Do you know, this is the second time in history, the second time in the reign of Fir'aun that he ordered for children to be killed. The first time was around the time of the birth of Musa alayhi salam, when he sees that dream that somebody is going to come and overthrow him. And he stations his soldiers at every single midwife's house, that wherever she goes, in order to give and help a lady give birth, that child is killed on the spot. Historians say that in that first massacre, 20,000 male baby boys were killed by the order of Fir'aun. 20,000. Many years later, when Fir'aun fears that his throne is going to be taken away again from him, he says the same order, اقتلوا أبناءهم, kill their sons. And who knows how many children were killed in this second massacre of Fir'aun. Does what is happening in the world today now begin to make sense when you look at it through the lens of the Quran? This is a strategy employed by these people. The verse ends by Allah saying, وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. That the plots of those who disbelieve, they will always be destroyed. Look at the choice of Allah's words here. He could have said, وَمَا كَيْدُ فِرْعَوْنَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ, that the plot of Fir'aun will be destroyed. But Allah was very careful with His words. He said, وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ, that the plot of any single disbeliever مِنَ الْآنِ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ will always be destroyed. This is the promise of Allah. The promise of Allah. That no matter what atrocities you have to go through, the promise of Allah is true. وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ, that their plans will always, always, always be destroyed. Allah is telling us that this strategy of Fir'aun is not going to just die with Fir'aun. This strategy, these several points in his strategy that Fir'aun employed to subjugate Banu Israel will continue happening again and again and again by the oppressors that come after Fir'aun. The Quran is giving us a blueprint to look out for these signs and to show us what will be the end of the people that commit these things. But look at the resilience of Banu Israel. Their children have been killed and massacred twice in their history before their very eyes. Yet still these people do not leave Musa. Fir'aun is still not able to suppress their voice of rebellion. Again, sound familiar? Look what's happening in Gaza and the faith of these people. Have they left their faith? No. Every single effort has been made to understand why these people sit there and say, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. But like Banu Israel, their faith isn't quashed. Their resilience doesn't die. Fir'aun is confused. Why are these people still hopeful? I killed their children. They have nothing left. I've taken their wealth from them. I've taken their power from them. Why are these people still rebelling against me? So then Quran al-Kareem tells us that Fir'aun decides to employ a final strategy. ذَرُونِي أَقْتُلُ مُوسَى, that I will now kill their leader Musa. Remember the position of Musa in Egypt. Musa grew up in the house of Fir'aun. He's considered Egyptian royalty. He should not be able to be touched. Yet Fir'aun is saying that in my pursuit of power, it doesn't matter who I kill. They can be Banu Israel, they can be Egyptian royalty. I will kill whoever I need to in order to keep my power. And eventually a point comes where Fir'aun is not able to kill Musa directly. But a point comes when Musa and Harun are getting ready to lead 700,000 people of Banu Israel outside of Egypt. As they are getting ready, the spies within the community send news to Fir'aun. And what does Fir'aun do? He orders a ground invasion. In our language today, a carpet bombing of those people. Again, see how the same events are happening again and again and again. Fir'aun stands up, and Surah Al-Shu'ara records this speech of Fir'aun. He stands up and he mobilizes this army of his, and he says, these are the slaves that if you're not careful, they will take Egypt away from you. They are only few in number. And he acknowledges that there are some in this Banu Israel community that don't believe in Musa, but they want to be free of Pharaoh. They don't believe in the Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't believe in the message of Musa, but they are going with Musa because they want to be free of Fir'aun. He says, kill even those because they are acting like human shields. We're not just going to go after the people that we want to kill. We're going to go after everybody now. Again, do you see the strategy of Fir'aun? Surah Al-Shu'ara records this speech. He says to them, these are a group of pathetic, powerless people. You should be able to destroy them. And how does Musa respond to this public announcement of Fir'aun? وَقَالَ مُوسَى إِنِّي عُذْتُ بِرَبِّي وَرَبِّكُمْ. I seek refuge in my Lord and in Fir'aun, your Lord. No matter what you say, you also have a Lord. Because Fir'aun was the one that stood there and said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. He says, Musa, I take refuge in my Lord and in your Lord, min kulli mutakabbirin, against every single arrogant oppressor, la yu'minu biyawm al-hisab. That I take Allah's refuge from every single arrogant oppressor who forgets the day when he will have to stand trial before Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the response of Musa. And there were people, as we know, within Fir'aun's own Fir'aun's own administration, that after years of silence were unable to take what Fir'aun was doing to the Banu Israel. Egyptian elite who had been brainwashed by Pharaoh into believing that these Israelites were subhuman individuals. And as we know, Surah Ghafir also talks about the rising of Mu'min ala Fir'aun, the individual who had concealed his faith, who was from amongst the family of Pharaoh. And this individual gives a speech. And Allah, remember the Quran has infinite meaning. But in terms of its actual physical self, it's a finite book. There's only a certain number of verses in it. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts something in that book, it means that there is deep meaning and there is something for you and I to understand within it. That Allah finds this speech and these words of Mu'min ala Fir'aun so important that He records them in His timeless book. And Mu'min ala Fir'aun reminds the people, he reminds them that Fir'aun, today you have sovereignty and power. Today you have the ability to do this, but there will come a day when you will stand trial before Allah. And he ends by saying, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ كَذَّابٌ. That Allah will not guide the people that are extravagant and liars. In this verse, the Mufassirin say that guidance is not just guidance towards the light of Islam and the light of the one true God. Guidance is also when Allah allows your plans to happen and your plans to come to fruition. If you want something to happen and Allah allows it to happen, that is a form of Allah's guidance. And musrifun kadhab is not just asraf in the way that you and I know it, of spending excessively. Asraf is also to be extravagant in your reaction to something. If somebody says something to upset you, sometimes we jump on them. We're extravagant in our reaction. This is what Mu'min ala Fir'aun is talking about. That sometimes you can be extravagant in the way that you react to people. Fir'aun was extravagant in the way that he reacted to Banu Israel by what he did to them. Allah says people like you that exceed the limits, the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will stand trial before Allah and will never ever see the light of Jannah. Allah gives us hope. Allah gives us hope in these verses. That no matter what is happening in the world today, that a time will come when this will end. But there is a plan here that has to unfold. Through the story of Banu Israel, Allah Azza wa Jal shows us the strategies and the tactics that were employed by the Fir'auns and the oppressors of the past that are still employed by the oppressors of today. Can you see the similarities? 15,000 children killed in Gaza in a political conflict. A child in Medina miscarried in his mother's womb when she was pushed between the wall and the door for the sake of political aim. And a 6-year-old child who had an arrow pierced through his neck for the sake of political greed and aim. Today we've come together to remember not only these children of Gaza, but to honor that young shaheed of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Ali al-Asghar. And our narrations, our ulama come forward and they tell us that this young child, this 6-month-old baby of Hussein, is also known as Bab al-Hawa'ij. In the same way that Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam is Bab al-Hawa'ij, this Asghar is Bab al-Hawa'ij. Today when you sit here and you shed your tears, take these tears, hold them in your hands and make your supplications and your dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the name of this young shaheed. There comes a time on that day of Ashura when Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is left absolutely alone. And he looks towards the river Furat, towards the river Euphrates, and he says, Aina akhi al-Abbas? Where are you, my brother Abbas? The enemies want to attack our tents. Abbas, did you not protect me, promise me that you would stay with me? Is it such that Hussein calls Abbas and Abbas does not respond? The Maqtal says that the body of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas began to quiver at the call of Hussein. Hussein looks around him and he sees his companions and his family members slain on the floors, on the plains of Karbala. He says, Aina ya Habib, Habib, my childhood friend. Aina ya Muslim, Aina ya Zuhair, Aina ya Hur. He calls all of his companions. He then turns towards the camp and the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad and he says, Hal min nasirin yansurana. Is there anyone to help me? Ya Abu Abdullah, there was no one to answer that call on that day. But today, Ya Abu Abdullah, millions of us answer, Labbaika ya Da'i Allah, Labbaika ya Hussein. But on that day, there was no one to say, Labbaika ya Sayyidi, Ya Abu Abdullah. أما من مغيث يغيثنا أما من ضاب يضب عن حرم رسول الله. Is there anyone to protect the women and the children of Rasulullah? You know, the thoughts of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on the day of Ashura were always with his women. Narrations tell us from one of his companions, Nafi' bin Hilal, that on the night of Ashura, on the night of the 10th of Muharram, he sees, Nafi' says, I see Abu Abdullah going into the battlefield. I see Abu Abdullah bend to the floor. He picks something up. He walks another distance. He picks something up again. Nafi' says, I go to him and I say, Ya Abu Abdullah, what is it that you're doing? He says, Nafi', tomorrow my women and my children will be made to walk on these sands. I'm removing the stones and the thorns from the plains of Karbala so that when they run here tomorrow, their feet are not hurt by these things. Hussein's thought is always with his women. Our traditions tell us, the Maqtal says, that even when Abu Abdullah was the last and he went out to the battlefield to fight, every now and then he would come back to his tent and he would say, Zainab, Assalamu alayk, I'm still alive, do not despair. The thoughts of Hussein were always with his women and children. It is said that Kulthum comes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein holding this young 6-month-old child in her hands. And wallahi al-azim, when I saw this baby yesterday, this was the scene that came into my mind. She's holding a 6-month-old Ali al-Asghar. MashaAllah, there are so many mothers in the crowd, so many babies in the crowd. What does your child do if they want something? They cry, they make noise, they grab your attention. The Maqtal says that Asghar was so drained of energy, he was not even able to cry. The eyes of Asghar had sunk into his sockets and into his face. His face was so pale and drained of blood. This baby did not even have the energy to cry. It is said that Abu Abdullah takes the baby. He kisses him on the forehead and he says, Ya Kulthum, I'm going to take this baby to the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Maybe they will have some mercy upon him. Maybe they will give him some water. Hussein at that point in time is dressed in his armor. He's dressed in his armor. He has his helmet. He has his sword. He has his shield. It's said that Abu Abdullah removes his helmet. He puts on his amama. He takes off his armor. He puts on a shirt. that is ripped and is torn. This is not a man that is going out to fight. This is a father going to seek water for his children. Abu Abdullah's intention was not to go out and fight these individuals. This household of Ahlul Bayt are manifestations of the Quran. Imagine the heart of Rabab when Imam al-Hussein takes this 6-month-old, wraps him in a white cloth and takes him into the battlefield. My heart tells me that Rabab is consoling herself with the words of the Quran. She's remembering what Allah told the mother of Musa when the mother of Musa put Musa into the crate, into the Nile. Allah said, "La takhafi wa la tahzani." Do not be sad, do not be grieved. Inna radduhu ilayki. We will return your son to you. Rabab must be thinking the same, that Allah will return my baby to me. It is said Imam al-Hussein takes this child to the battlefield. Hamid ibn Muslim, one of the narrators of the Battle of Karbala, says that I see Hussein walk into the battlefield with this baby in his arms. I see him go to the left side of the army. He holds up the baby. Nothing happens. Hussein goes to the right side of the army. He says something, I can't hear what he says. But he holds up the baby again. Again, nothing happens. He says, then I see Hussein come to the middle flank of the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. And he says that I heard Hussein crying and saying to this army, Ya qawm, O people, لَقَدْ قَتَلْتُمْ إِخْوَتِي وَأَوْلَادِي وَأَصْحَابِي. O people, you have killed my children, my companions, my sons. وَمَا بَقِيَ غَيْرَ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. I have nothing left except for this infant. Please come and feed him some water. Nobody comes forward. Imam al-Hussein raises Asghar to the skies and he says, Ya Allah, fi yawm al-qiyamah, judge between me and them. Judge that Hussein asks for water for his infant. It is said that Imam al-Hussein then says to Asghar, Asghar, it is now time for your jihad. He places the baby on the burning sands of Karbala. Asghar sticks out his tongue to show the enemy how thirsty he is. There is chaos erupting in the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Many of these people had just followed. They did not know what they were doing in Karbala. And there is revolt in the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad comes to his famous archer Hurmala and he says, Hurmala, iqta kalam al-Hussein. Hurmala, silence Hussein. Kill this baby. For if this baby remains alive, we will have a revolt in our army. Minhal ibn Amr, one of our narrators of hadith, says that 1 year after performing Hajj, I went to the city of Medina to visit Imam Zain al-Abidin. Imam Sajjad asks me, Minhal, you've come from the land of Iraq. What is the news of the revolution of Mukhtar? Imam's first question is, Oh Minhal, has Mukhtar caught Harmala? Has Mukhtar caught Harmala? It is said that when news of Harmala's killing reached Imam Sajjad, that was the first time after Karbala that Imam Sajjad would smile. Hurmala continues his narration to Mukhtar. This comes from the words of the killer himself. Hurmala says, Oh Mukhtar, I see the baby of Hussein in the arms of Hussein, wrapped in a light white cloth to protect him from the heat of the sun. He says, Oh Mukhtar, I had been given the order to kill this baby. I was deciding where I wanted to shoot my arrow when all of a sudden there was a light breeze and the neck of the baby became exposed, and I decided that this is where I want to hit my arrow. Hurmala says that I took my arrow. But he says, Oh Mukhtar, I didn't take any ordinary arrow. I took a 3-pronged arrow dipped in poison that I would use to kill the camels and the horses of the desert. Hurmala says, I took my 3-pronged arrow. I put it into my bow. I stretched it back as far as it would go, and then I let it fling. He says, I see the arrow hit the neck of Asghar, min al-udhun ila al-udhun, from one ear to the other. The hands of Asghar begin to flap in the wind as if he was a bird. Hurmala says, the baby of Hussein was flapping around as if he was a fish out of water. The hands of Hussein are filled with the blood of Asghar. He takes this blood in his hands. He raises his hands towards the heavens and he says, Hawwana alayya ma nazala bi'annahu bayn Allah. Ya Allah, the only reason that Hussein can bear this calamity is that Allah, you were watching. Allah, you were watching when Hussein lost his baby. It is said that a voice comes from the sky, Hussein, the sky will not accept the blood of Asghar. Imam Sadiq says that no drop of the blood of Asghar came back down onto the ground. Imam al-Hussein smears his face with the blood of Asghar. He turns towards the city of Medina and he says, Ya Jaddah, this is how Hussein will meet you on the day of judgment, with the blood of Asghar on his face. The blood of Asghar is flowing onto the clothes and onto the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. But now he has the task, how do I take this child back to its mother? How do I take this child back to Rabab, who is clinging on to hope, وَمَا رَدُّهُ إِلَيْكِ, that my son will be returned to me? 7 times Hussein goes and 7 times Hussein falls. And every time he falls, he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, ridan biqada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. Eventually, on the 7th time, a voice comes from the skies, Ya Hussein, fanudiya min al-hawa. A voice comes from the skies, Ya Hussein, fa inna lahu murdiyan fil jannah. Ya Hussein, this child is with his nursemaid in Jannah. I ask you, who is the nursemaid of this child? None other than Zahra. Zahra was not able to nurse Muhsin. Zahra is now the caretaker of Ali al-Asghar. And I will leave you with one thing. One thing. We have so much pain when we hear about what has happened to the children of Gaza. We take comfort when we hear that Ali al-Asghar is in the arms of his grandmother. Our traditions tell us that when a nabaligh child dies and goes into heaven, do you know who is the kafil? Who is the one that looks after them in heaven? Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nabiullah Ibrahim is the kafil and the caretaker of all of these children of Gaza, waiting for their parents to enter Jannah, when these children will then lead their parents into Jannah. Nabiullah Ibrahim, for any of you who may have lost a child, take comfort in this fact that your child is in the arms of Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam. Sayyida Zainab comes running to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. She sees the child in the arms of Hussein. She begins to hit her head and her chest, saying, Wa musibata, wa wayla, how will I take this child back to Rabab? She says, don't let Rabab see this scene, for Rabab will die of grief. It is said Abu Abdullah takes the body of Ali al-Asghar, and he takes his sword and he digs a small grave for Ali al-Asghar behind the tents. But Asghar is the only shaheed who was killed not once but twice on the day of Ashura. Because on the day of the 11th of Muharram, Ya Asghar, they did not let you sleep. Even in death, they did not let you sleep. When the heads of the shuhada are being counted, Umar ibn Sa'ad notices that there is one head missing. The head of the infant of Hussein is missing. And he says, Oh Shimar, upturn the land of Karbala if you must, but bring me the head of the infant of Hussein. Hussein has buried Asghar behind the tents. And do you know how they find the body of Asghar? Shimar takes his spear and he begins poking into the land of Karbala. He approaches the tents, poking everywhere. As he approaches the place where Asghar is buried, can you imagine the heart of Zainab and Rabab? How must they be feeling when all of a sudden the spear of Shimar pierces the ground and the body of Asghar comes out on the spear? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة الحسين وفي الآخرة شفاعة الحسين واكتب لي عاجلا زيارة الحسين واحفظ زوار الحسين واجعلنا باكين في مجالس الحسين وادخلنا الجنة مع أنصار الحسين. ماتم حسين يا حسين.
बुला लो, मुझे प्यास सताती है, तुरबत से अली असग़र की, तुरबत से अली असग़र की आवाज़ ये आती है, ऐ माँ तू मुझे पास बुला लो, मुझे प्यास सताती है, याद आए बहुत मुझको तेरा झूला झूलाना है, कभी सीने से लगा के तेरा लोरी सुनाना, जब रेत गरम प्यारी माँ, जब रेत गरम प्यारी माँ मेरे तन को जलाती है, ऐ माँ तू मुझे पास बुला लो, मुझे प्यास सताती है, है प्यास की शिद्दत से गला सूखा पड़ा है ज़ख्मी गला उसमें माँ दर्द खड़ा है, कि तुरबत में अकेला हूँ मैं, तुरबत में अकेला हूँ मैं, तन्हाई डराती है, ऐ माँ तू मुझे पास बुला लो, मुझे प्यास सताती है, दरवाजे पे खैमा के एक बीबी खड़ी है, मुड़ मुड़ के जो मक़तल की तरफ देख रही है, एक खून भरे कुर्ते को, एक खून भरे कुर्ते को आँखों से लगाती है, ऐ माँ तू मुझे पास बुला लो, मुझे प्यास सताती है, ऐ माँ तू मुझे पास बुला लो, मुझे प्यास सताती है, या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन, सब मिल के पढ़े, या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन, हैया अला खैरिल अमल, 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 या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन। मैं ख्वाब में असग़र तुझे, मैं ख्वाब में असग़र तुझे सीने से लगाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। सब पढ़ो। तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे। मैं ख्वाब में असग़र तुझे, मैं ख्वाब में असग़र तुझे लोरी भी सुनाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुला। लौटाओ सफ़र से के बड़ी देर हुई है, लौटाओ सफ़र से के बड़ी देर हुई है, बेताब हूँ कब से तुझे, बेताब हूँ कब से तुझे सीने से लगाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। कोई मुझे बतलाता नहीं तेरी निशानी, कोई मुझे बतलाता नहीं तेरी निशानी, बरसात में तीरों की, बरसात में तीरों की कहाँ ढूंढने जाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। बाबा से तेरा जनाजा न उठेगा, बाबा से तेरा जनाजा न उठेगा, रुक जा जरा अब्बास को, रुक जा जरा अब्बास को दरिया से बुलाओ, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। इस तरह कोई रूठ के माँ से नहीं जाता, इस तरह कोई रूठ के माँ से नहीं जाता, तू खुद ही बता दे, मैं तू खुद ही बता दे, मैं तुझे कैसे मनाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊं, असग़र में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास में बुझाऊं, असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ। सब मिलके आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं। असगर तुम्हारी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ। मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद। कैसे उसे सुनाऊँ, असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। बेटा तुम्हारा कातिल मेरे सामने खड़ा है, जाने क्यों हंस रहा है। चादर भी लुट गई है, मुँह किस तरह छुपाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास। नेज़े से गिर रहा है नन्हा सा सर तुम्हारा, दिल रोता है हमारा। मेरे हाथ तो बंधे हैं, सर किस तरह उठाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जा चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जा तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। आ जा चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। असगर में तेरी माँ हूँ, आ जा चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊँ। वो आबिदे बीमार था, वो आबिदे बीमार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, चलने से जो लाचार था। और शाम का बाजार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और मुस्तफ़ा की बेटियाँ मौला हकीम या हसन या हुसैन, मौला सब मिलके या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन। के शब्बीर की वो लाडली, शब्बीर की वो लाडली, सीने पे जो शाके पली, सीने पे जो शाके पली, जिसकी अबापन में जली, जिसकी अबापन में जली, मुँह पर तमाचों के निशान। मौला या हसन या हुसैन, मौला या हसन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन। वो असग़रे बेशीर था, वो असग़रे बेशीर था, और हुरमला का तीर था, और Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Hay Sakina, Hay Sakina, Hay Yatima, Hay Yatima, Hay Mazluma, Hay Mazluma. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Per Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayka ya Khadijat al-Kubra Ummul Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayka ya Fatimat al-Zahra Sayyidat al-Nisa al-Alameen. Assalamu alayka ya Hasan al-Mujtaba. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر اللحظ مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين وقاسم بن الحسن ومسلم بن عقيل وهاني بن عروة وحبيب بن مظاهر والحر الشهيد الرياحي. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولا وابن مولا. السلام عليك يا قريب القربى. السلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدي في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا فاطمة المعصومة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتن الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك ودورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد.
Okay, ready, everybody? Take you down one by one.
Ladies, thank you so much for this attendance. May Allah accept it from all of us. We have another program tomorrow for ladies, 2 p.m. and it's in the main hall, Byron Hall. Please attend in large numbers. Monday, we have a Sufra Ummul Baneen with Hazrat Abbas's Hazri, and we have a Zakira Zakia Batul Najafi. We're starting at 2 p.m. again in Byron Hall, and we have another last one ladies program on Tuesday at 2 p.m. in Byron Hall. Please attend. Also Zakia Batul Najafi will be reciting our majlis. Please take your tabarruk. There's special tabarruks for kids and the adults as well. Jazakallah khairan jaza. Can we please request for 5 times Amma Yujibul for all the Maris, especially our president, Mr. Mahmoud Padani, who is currently in hospital with some procedure. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 ارْحَمْنَا بِرَحْمَتِكَ يَا أَرْحَمَ الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Surah Fatiha for Kul Marhumin Al-Fatiha. We are also going to serve chai with some tabarruk, so please take your seats. Mothers, there's some tabarruk for children as well. Please, can you make sure you take them? Please, kids, don't go without your tabarruk.